What up, y'all? What up, what up, what up? Another edition of the Robin Lundberg Show. Back and in full effect here with you on this glorious Monday afternoon. I say glorious because it's relatively warm outside, all things considered. I live in New Jersey. For those of you who are not aware, it's been pretty brick in recent times. And I usually get to a point in the year where I just decide I'm going to will the good weather in and I won't wear a jacket. And I will only wear short sleeves and shorts, unless I'm like dressed up for something. And I've reached that point. I've decided I'm willing in the warm weather. It's going to happen. Groundhogs be damned. Maybe it's because I came off a cruise and that I got back and it was snowing when we got back. But regardless, that's the plan on my end. And I also have a general rule of thumb, which is that if the weather is warmer than 50 degrees and cooler than 100 degrees, I will not complain about it. I refuse to complain about it if it's between 50 and 100, because otherwise you spend a lot of your time complaining about the weather. Nonetheless, that's all I got from a meteorological standpoint. Let's get into the basketball part of this discussion. It's going to be a busy, was a busy day for me on the Twitter streets, or the X streets, if you will. I got to be honest with you, like sometimes I'll post something and I'm not really ready for the volume of engagement and the visceral nature of the replies in regard to the context of what I post. Maybe it's like, I'm blessed to have so much power in the sense of my voice being that important or that recognized. But I swear to you, some of this stuff I'll just post that I'm not like expecting to be arguing with people all day back and forth or to be received in a certain way. Let me start with the Sky trade itself before I get into what I posted and some of the replies. The Sky trade. So they moved the number 3 pick in the draft for Ariel Atkins from the Mystics. That happened last night, right? I actually probably defended that trade more than most. The one part of it that bugs me a little bit is I don't know why they had to include the future pick swap. To me, I would have thought that the 3rd pick would be enough to get the deal done with Washington in the position they're in. And I get it from the Mystics' point of view, of course, because they have no pressure. They have no expectations. And they now have the 3rd, 4th, and 6th pick in the upcoming WNBA draft. So they're in a full-on rebuild. And I also get it in a sense from the Sky's point of view because they got a lot more attention on them last year in Angel Reese's rookie season. And the expectation for them is to build on that and to put butts in seats and to get to the playoffs and the like. Because, there's a lot of people saying, why would you trade your pick in the middle of a rebuild? Well, why would the Sky consider themselves a rebuild? I mean, let me position it this way. If one is to believe, because if one is to believe that Angel Reese is a star or a possible superstar, then how are they in a rebuild? They should be building around her, no? So you either believe that or you don't. And by the way, shouts to Angel. I've been watching her in Unrivaled, and I've seen some impressive things. Looks like she's finishing or initiating her layups from a higher release point now. I know she worked with Lisa Leslie. I also, Angel has very quick hands on the perimeter. I've been impressed with her stealing the ball, and then when she gets the ball, or whether it's a steal or not, her bringing it up in transition, a la, let's say, Giannis Antetokounmpo, something like that, going downhill a little bit. I think Angel is an underrated passer. I don't think people give her enough credit for how good a passer she is. And there are a lot of things about Angel's game that you could see her taking to another level. To point out the shortcomings she's had finishing is simple basketball analysis and is a legitimate area of concern and possible path to improvement. And to act like it's hating when you discuss it in good faith is ridiculous. And I think Reese has an incredible motor. and is a lot better and more well-rounded and skilled as a player than she gets credit for at times from her detractors. At the same time, that is a huge impediment, both her finishing inside and adding to her all-around offensive game between being what she was last year and what she could be, right? But if you do believe that Angel Reese has the potential to be a legit star in the league, then the Sky are not really a rebuilding team, no? I mean, is it Uchiwali or is it one Mike at that point? And the Sky indicated they were not in a rebuilding mode by the moves that they made. You don't go sign Courtney Vandersloot, who's a veteran point guard and floor general, because you're trying to rebuild through the draft. So I think the Sky feel a lot of pressure to not win the championship immediately. I'm not saying that, but to get into the playoffs and to be a relevant, competitive WNBA team. And I think the GM felt that pressure and made a move that was in line with that pressure. As far as the move itself, I really don't have a problem with the third pick for Atkins in a vacuum. I've seen a lot of, we'll get to the NCAA women's landscape in a minute. I've seen a lot of women's basketball this year on the collegiate side, and most of those prospects don't really stand out to me as like can't miss prospects versus who they got. I mean, Atkins is 28 years old, a two-way player, plays defense, can shoot, can score. They didn't have any scoring on the perimeter, really much shooting at all. They add her and Allen, and I think those are upgrades for them. So that I didn't have a problem with. I don't understand why they had to include the 2027 pick swap. Though, if it gets to that point where the 2020 pick swap is a problem, the Sky might as well fold as an organization if they like miss out on Juju Watkins or whatever because of this deal. And then, I've seen some of the critiques of it saying it's a one-year rental and the like. I don't really buy that so much. I mean, Kelsey Plum, it would fall under the same umbrella, but I'm assuming she gave an indication that to LA, she wants to stay longer. And the Sky would also have the rights to core Atkins. So I'm not looking at it through those lens or through that lens. But in talking about the trade, I then posted, I forget what the exact wording was, but basically, I think I said the elephant in the room was still the fit between Reese and Cardoso, which I think is a legitimate concern. Angel Reese likes to operate near the basket. Camila Cardoso likes to operate near the basket. They occupy similar spots on the floor. And again, Reese is a really good passer and can play a high-low game with Cardoso, but if I'm the defense and they're my opponents, I'm going a little bigger and I'm packing the paint because I'm not worried about either of them spacing the floor and shooting the basketball. And I think in today's day and age, and it's not quite the same in the WNBA as it is in, say, the NBA, but it's moving in that direction. Having two non-floor spacing bigs who occupy the same spots on the floor is not exactly a winning formula. And I just kind of, I think that's one of the fundamental issues that the Sky have to deal with. Not saying it is doomed for failure, not saying the other upgrades can't make it work, but saying I have my questions about it. And obviously it's a big question considering those were the two players they used their recent draft picks on. And if it doesn't work, they would have a decision to make. And like the amount of people who jumped on me for that, I didn't realize, I guess I did realize, I've seen it over and over again, how sensitive some of the W fans are, and maybe the Sky fans in particular. I don't know. I guess so. And then how dumb some of the comments back I got were, because frankly, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but they were dumbass comments. Somebody told me that both Cardoso and Reese are 3-level scorers. They obviously don't know what that term means. And for those of you, and I'm not assuming that everybody in here has been watching basketball their whole life. I know there are a lot of new basketball fans. So it's not like a high and mighty sort of stance I'm taking where I'm being indignant to somebody who doesn't know what that terminology means. And if you aren't familiar, what a 3-level scorer means is someone that can score close to the basket, someone that could score from beyond the arc, and someone that could score in the mid-range. 3 levels, right? You could score from any spot on the floor. From what we've seen from Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, to call them three-level scorers is absurd when they both take the vast majority of their shots from right near the basket. And in Reese's case last year, she was basically the most inefficient player in the league when it comes to her shooting and finishing near the basket. And Cardoso is a really good finisher near the basket, but possesses or has shown less affinity for handling the ball and playing facing the basket than Reese has so far, who's tried to work on her game clearly. And then I had somebody else tell me that they were great shooters. Let me look up the numbers for a second. I just want to WNBA. I should have done this beforehand. I'm sorry. Shooting charts. Camila Cardoso. All right, let's look at Cardoso's shooting chart. I'm here. Okay. So Cardoso took 5 shots from 10 to 14 feet all of last year. She took 6 shots from 15 to 19 feet all of last year. And she took 0 shots from 20 to 24 feet. Of her field goal attempts, she took 242 field goal attempts. 201 were within 5 feet of the basket. So to call Camilo Cardoso a 3-level scorer is, quite frankly, objectively false. And to call her a great shooter would also be objectively false. Now let's look at Angel Reese for a second. Angel Reese. Shooting. I want to look at her shooting splits. Not her career splits, sorry. Profile. How do you sort this? I got to Google it almost to get it right. Hold on one second. Angel Reese shooting split. Here we go. All right. Angel Reese's shooting. So Angel Reese took 419 field goal attempts last year. 321 were within 5 feet of the basket. 321 over. So if you add that up, that's like 85 to 90% of their attempts are within 5 feet of the basket. So to act like either is a shooter or a 3-level scorer is insanity. And Reese was 4 of 22 from 3. Or actually, she was 1 of, not from 3, because she did 1 of 5 from 25 to 9 feet. So 5 of, and 0 of 1. Roughly, Reese shot 18% from 3 on her attempts. Not a great shooter. I'm not saying that to be a jerk or a diss. And that's the thing, like, with Angel Reese, you say some of these things and all these people come at you and go, well, the way Angel Reese's name has been used, you can't believe. No, I can talk about basketball when it comes to Angel Reese. I'm not going to sit here and be afraid to talk hoops. I'm sorry. And the way that people try to hijack things, I'm so done with the narratives. If you call me like a racist or whatever you call me, it's insulting, and I'm fucking tired of it, to be honest, with that. It's disrespectful to who I am, where I came from, what I do, and I'm going to talk about basketball, and I'm not going to be worried about people's feelings because Angel Reese has been involved in other discussions. It's like the sensitivity and the lack of ball knowledge about it is astounding. It's astounding. I'm sorry. Especially when I'm trying to praise Reese for what she did in Unrivaled. And I defended the Sky move, I think, more than most. So I was going back and forth with people today, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't. So that's what I got to say about that for now, so we get to the comments. Then there was another stupid-ass discussion over the weekend, and I don't even know if it was really a discussion as much as one person posted something, and, content creators like myself used it for further content, so being full disclosure, because Chelsea Gray had a good performance in Unrivaled, and there was a post about her being the best point guard in the league, and then people started arguing about that. And this is another, instance to talk about the WNBA discourse and the lack of reason or rationale or appropriate, context that is applied at times, and this, fealty toward legacy. And I don't even mean to involve Chelsea Gray in it, because Chelsea Gray, it's not her fault this happens, and it's not her fault, you know, her name gets thrown into this or whatever. And she is a proven veteran, and she is a flashy passer, and she is a good player. Like, I'm not trying to diss Chelsea Gray. But yelling point guard does not make her the best point guard. And like this thing with, Caitlin Clark, who is so clearly far and away the best point guard. It's a ridiculous debate to even present. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's not because Caitlin Clark has fans. It has nothing to do with that. It's just like what you... So, Caitlin Clark, in her rookie year, scored more points than a point guard ever has in the history of the league. No point guard ever scored more than Caitlin Clark. And she broke the all-time assist record. Not to mention, so you want to say, okay, it's not just about that, it's about other things. Caitlin Clark led all point guards in rebounds. I think she led all point guards in blocks. She was top 25 in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. Produced more points than any player in the history of the league ever had. Like, let me just do some simple math for you for a second. And I apologize to Chelsea Gray for this. And I know Chelsea Gray was hurt or coming off injury last year. So let's all hope that Chelsea Gray has a better season this year than she had last year. I think that's reasonable to say that Chelsea Gray will have a better season this year than she did last year. But it's also reasonable to say that Caitlin Clark will have a better season this year than she did last year. Chelsea Gray, I'm going to add her points, rebounds, and assists. Okay. 8.6 plus 2.9 plus 4.9. Chelsea Gray had 16.4 combined points, rebounds, and assists on average last year. Let's do that with Caitlin Clark. 19.2 plus 5.7 plus 8.4. 33.3. So Caitlin Clark had more than double the combined points, rebounds, and assists last year between the two. What? It's like that meme. Got a new webcam, by the way. How's it look? It's silly. And Chelsea Gray, that's not to take away from the things that she does that don't show up in the box score, right? Like leadership and positioning players on the floor and all those things. But it doesn't make up for a gap that enormous. So it's just like a way to, again, like, it's almost like a sneak diss of Caitlin Clark to use Chelsea Gray in that way. It's just dumbass stuff. Dumbass stuff. And then finally, NCAA women's basketball. Really good day of college hoops yesterday. Very entertaining. NC State beating Notre Dame in 2 overtimes. That was a truly excellent game. Hannah Hidalgo did not have her best game. It was still a pest defensively. But I think you saw the biggest weakness with Notre Dame is that they don't really have a lot of length and size. They're not physically imposing, right? And that, I think, is their biggest drawback come March. And it shows you just how up in the air things are. NC State beats a number 1 ranked team at home for the first time since 1978. Meanwhile, Texas is ranked number 1 in the AP poll for the first time in 21 years today. But UConn is on top of the net rankings, which are like the system based on the data and who you play and where you play them and margin of victory and stuff like that. So you can just see it's wide open because Notre Dame beat UConn, right? And Notre Dame beat USC. USC beat UConn. USC beat UCLA. But Iowa beat USC. UCLA barely beat Iowa, but beat South Carolina. Texas both lost and beat South Carolina. Notre Dame beat Texas. UConn beat South Carolina. I mean, it's pretty wild how up in the air it is. And it should make for a great March. And it's just further proof of the explosion of the women's game, where it's getting so much attention and being elevated, where, again, I really believe it. Like last year, I don't know if everybody knows this. Last year, the women's tournament, Final Four outrated the men. I think that's a possibility again. I think it's a possibility they outrate the men. Not at the beginning, because I think the tradition of March Madness on the men's side and everybody filling out their bracket is a little bit harder to overcome. But as some of the teams get eliminated and people's brackets get busted and their interest goes down, I think if the right teams on the women's side advance, the star power is greater on the women's side. Because aside from, let's say, maybe Cooper Flagg, most people are not going to be able to name a player on the men's side, while the coaches even have more fame on the women's side. In Gino and Dawn Staley, notably Kim Mulkey as well. Not to mention Paige Beckers, Hannah Hidalgo, Juju Watkins, so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's exciting to see that roll around. But that does it for my monologue here today. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Get your comments in, and I will get to the comments now. Of course, like I've always tell you, super chats, member chats get read first, but I do my best to get to everyone. Shouts to Kevin Zwicker. Shout out to the Wolfpack for getting such a big win this weekend. Those ladies showed a lot of grit. NC State Wolfpack he's referencing, and no doubt, because I thought when Sonia Citron hit the 3 to send it to overtime that Notre Dame was going to win, but nope, wasn't the case. NC State kept fighting. And to that point about the draft that I talked about before, we don't even know if Olivia Miles is going to declare or AZ Fudd. But I like Olivia Miles, but I'm not like wowed by Olivia Miles. And same goes with Citron, who played great yesterday. But I don't know if she has this speed and explosiveness where I'm like, oh my goodness, when I look at the draft prospects, the more and more the season goes, the more and more Paige does look like the number one prospect amongst the current crop of players. And beyond that, I'm not so sure Malanga from France doesn't have the most upside. So I don't know. Like the Sparks trading the number 2 pick didn't bother me, and the Sky trading the number 3 pick didn't bother me. Kevin also says, need a Reese meal review on the channel, please. Is this the McDonald's thing? I'm going to be called an Angel Reese hater again. Good for her, good marketing. Unless there's nobody from McDonald's listening, right? Like, and I'm about to throw my possible sponsorship out there. I think McDonald's is disgusting. Is that okay? My kids like to eat Happy Meals. I go get them, but I never get food for myself because I honestly just don't like it. Not even like trying to be a health food guy. I don't like the way McDonald's smells. When I go into McDonald's, it has this weird smell. I just don't like it. So I probably won't have the Reese meal review, because if I did, I would start from a place of bias, and I'm not trying to shit on her thing. Stern12, aka Chris, says, seems like a lot for what would be a rental. Why do people keep saying it's a rental? I mean, everybody's on basically expiring in 2026, right? Same thing goes for Plum. The Sky can core Atkins. I don't think the Sky make that deal without some understanding about Atkins's intentions. And you can also make the case that the Sky want to be players in the 2026 free agency market, by showing they're competitive and with their new practice facility opening before that season. That part of it doesn't bother me as much. I don't know why they had to include the pick swap. That's the part that bothers me more. Erie Cliff says, who will be the alternate point guard on the Fever when CC is resting? Sydney Colson. That's what she was signed for. I mean, think of her as Erica Wheeler, but probably will get a little bit more burn on the floor next to Clark. She can shoot the ball better from the outside. But Colson is a ball hawk defensively and a shooter. Diana Noble says, why is Sky trading all their draft picks? Maybe the vets are worth it. Well, I mean, is it not the same thing with the Fever, to be fair? I know the Fever jumped more than the Sky last year, but the Fever traded their draft pick and they brought on all vets. I mean, it's the same basic philosophy. It's just that doesn't appear that the Sky were a free agency destination because that organization has a certain reputation. But they needed perimeter scoring and playmaking and all that. And they obviously lost Marina Mabry, who was perhaps their best player in that regard. And then Kennedy Carter, who was also their best player in that regard after that. And by the way, I don't think Kennedy Carter is going to be in the WNBA next year, if I had to guess, from what I've heard and from the fact that nobody signed her. It seems like she was an issue in the locker room to the point of it being a problem with other players. Erie Cliff says, oh, that's the same one. I'm sorry. I already read that one. I was trying to, it was a member chat. So, Pete Dens 72 says, as a basket noob, I have a question regarding Angel Reese in a rookie year. Shoot, but I need the question. Should have just, here it is. If AR's 2024 rookie year, many of her shortcomings were evident. Many people were surprised. This puzzled me. Were her basketball weaknesses not evident in her college years? Well, I would say that Angel Reese outperformed her draft position last year. I mean, she was drafted 7th. She played better than the 7th overall pick. No? So, yeah, I'm sure some of them were evident, but it's not like she was the 2nd pick in the draft either. She's just the most discussed outside of Caitlin Clark. So I would argue that Angel Reese outperformed her draft position. The impartial review, if it makes you feel better, I live in central Minnesota, -70? That can't be right. I was in Minnesota for the finals. It was actually very nice and pleasant. I took a bike out and rode around for like 20-something miles. James Chandler says, wild idea, but could both Miles and Citron go to the Mystics? Yeah. I mean, it's possible. If Miles isn't picked 2nd, if she goes into the draft. Well, they only traded one draft pick, right? One was a swap. They didn't give away their 2027 pick. They swapped, which I don't know why they had to explain. But is Ariel Atkins worth the number 3 pick in the draft? I think you could easily argue. I mean, what are the chances? Let's just put it this way. If you had to handicap it, what are the chances that the 3rd pick in the draft turns out better than Ariel Atkins? I would say small, right? Like Atkins is a 2-time All-Star, champ, defensive team player, all defensive team player. I mean, that's pretty good. Diana Noble with another comment. Do you see Angel Reese as a potential MVP in a few years? Interesting question. Look, I wouldn't put a cap on her ceiling. I wouldn't say that, it's going to be tough with the competition because I think this year, I'd have it as Clark, Nafisa, and Asia as the clear top 3 for MVP going into the season. But Angel put up good enough numbers last year while shooting terribly, where if she improves the finishing a little bit, you could see her points per game jump like that, right? And then she adds a little bit to her bag and that jumps a little bit more. And then all of a sudden she's at 20 and 10. And that puts her in conversations. So I wouldn't bet on it, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that she's in the discussions or could get herself to that level. Like it's within her capabilities. Element Gold, your first mistake, Robin. You can't assume people make connections to make their point. They have a point and then match you manufacture a path to get to it. You and I don't think that way. I just had people coming at me, yeah, like with, and then when you defend it, they attack you and that they don't support what they're saying. It's frustrating, especially when I'm literally just talking basketball and nothing else to do with anything else and didn't even mean it. I like people act like you have this nefarious plan sometimes when you post something. I was just kind of thinking out loud, you know. Well, Doug O'Connor, I mean, they would have a 3-year control of Atkins with the core designation. By that logic, to either trade her again or to keep her because they could core her twice in a row. Rick T says, "I'm not a fan of Reese. Her childish behavior on and off the court makes her unlikable." Look, I mean, you can say that. I didn't mind the owl hootie hoo thing. I mean, look, is it what I do? No, but I've seen plenty of that in sports. You could, from what designation, what's the distinction between this and hootie hoo? Like, there's fine line, gray areas. That didn't bother me at all. LBW says, "Let us first see Angel do layups in a crowded 5x5 box with a defender trying to block her before all the praise." Well, look, she was going up against Nafisa the other day, and I'm not saying she's there, but I'm not going to like critique her in the midst of effort and improvement either. We'll see. It's why I have questions about the Reese and Cardoso pairing in the first place. Top Gun says, "I think Angel Reese is a power at rebounding. She appears to be a force under the basket. Time will tell if they let her throw folks around under the basket or call offensive fouls on her." Look, they let a lot of people get away with a lot of contact. Very physical league. Brett says, and to that point, though, Angel is relentless on I mean, I'm not going to knock her for pursuing the basketball and going back up and bullying people either. That's part of her game. Brett says Angel's problem is that she doesn't pass enough. She puts up a lot of shots under the basket and misses when her teammate is standing wide open for a shot. I mean, to be fair, she's catching the ball right near the basket. She's just going up near the basket. I mean, that's just instinct. I actually think Angel's an underrated passer. She's actually quite a good passer. And that's been on display and unrivaled a lot. Look, Angel knows how to play winning basketball. She's been a winner at every level she's ever played at. I mean, until last year. But I'm going to be fair. And the Sky were much better with her on the floor than without her on the floor. Hoops for Life says Sky are banking on not sucking this year, hence the pick swap. If they do suck, it was a horrible trade. Hopefully the coach can use AR and Cardoso effectively. Well, look, that's part of the challenge, too, for the new coach, Tyler Marsh. Sil Colecchio says, "How about the trip on Olsen? That was an obvious moving screen. UCLA got a free pass on that no call." I mean, yeah, it was a rough call against Iowa. There's a video up on it. Rough call, though, for sure. The anime rapper says the Sky are way better this year because they have shooting with Atkins and Nurse. Look, I like the move for Sloot too. That's a veteran. I don't see it as a rental. They have the core distinction too. We'll see how the CBA plays out. I feel like the rental framing is like the most cynical approach to the deal for them. Greg Stewart, Fever, Sparks, and Sky did the same thing. They have high-profile superstar rookies, so all brought in character championship mentors to develop the rookies professionally. Yeah, I think that's fair. So I just, again, if you see Angel Reese as a star level player or a potential star level player, then you can't really see the sky as a rebuild, right? I just saw one chat I got to try and find, and then I'll go back just because there's Raj. That's my son. Everybody go follow him. Love you, bud. Oh, I still don't know who this is. My biggest fan. Let me see if I can use this other comment to try and figure it out. My Rumble winners, men's CM Punk, women's Liv. Jay sucks. Why did he win? He's a bigger baby face than Spider-Man. Jay should not have been in the Rumble. Jimmy is better. I don't know if that. By the way, I'll be on Denise Salcedo's Monday Night Raw recap show tonight for the wrestling fans in the chat. So, like, what time's Raw run till? 10, 11? Trying to find the place I was at in the chat before I cherry pick those comments. Remember, member chats, super chats get read first and are much appreciated when it comes to the support of the channel. And please like, subscribe, and all those things. Justin says I look great. Kayla, what's up? How are you? Shouts to Bleacher Report for the webcam, by the way. You can check out my NCAA women's basketball show on Bleacher Report. His app every Thursday at 2 p.m. Jacques Cousteau, great to hear you speak up for yourself. It's insanity when people that don't know the game. You're the most objective of anyone calling out reality versus biased talking heads. Thank you. Cookie Thief says, if you look up the stats, last year was Chelsea's best year, and she was never, was it? I mean, Caitlin Clark was first team all WNBA and top 4 in MVP. Doug O'Connor says, elephant in the room. Number 1 on Fever free agency board was Satu Sabali. Why didn't they get her? Who said that? When was it ever said? I'm not saying they didn't have any interest or not. I don't know. But there is zero reporting that says Satu Sabali was number 1 on the Fever's free agency board. In fact, they said their top 2 priorities from their mouths were 1, re-signing Kelsey Mitchell, and they said that before they did that, and 2, signing Natasha Howard, which obviously there was, it didn't behoove them to say that before it happened. But there was literally never any indication that the Fever had interest in Sabali at all. Not saying they didn't, but there was nothing to link them to that besides fan speculation. Gary Graves, this is the most lopsided trade in WNBA history. Chicago gave up more than any other team to acquire a player on a 1-year rental. LA gave up number 2 for Plum, but got number 9 in return. Well, that was a 3-team trade for 1. That also saw Jewel Lloyd moved, and 2, by the same philosophy, Kelsey Plum is a 1-year rental. I don't understand the pick swap. I got no problem with number 3 for Ariel Atkins, but I don't know why they couldn't get that done without the swap. That's the problem I have. Pharaoh asks who I think will make the Final Four. Notre Dame, UConn. Texas. UCLA. Mercedes Cuevas says, might be best to stop giving into the unserious takes with 5 likes on Twitter. Treat them as trolls, tune them out. All their takes shouldn't be taken seriously. Look, I actually enjoy a good back and forth and debate, and I'm capable of defending my position. So I just, how many, let me go look at that tweet. I don't even know. Honestly, I got somebody like quoting it with tomatoes right now. I just saw somebody else just said always in sky business, as if I'm not allowed to talk about another team, Tony on script, or I talk about all sorts of teams. I'm in the business of South Carolina and UConn and all these other things. Like, whose business? What are you even talking about? It's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Somebody's business. It's a basketball team. Where's my initial post? I'm seeing the one about the 3-level scores because that blew up. Because I can't believe anybody seriously told me that Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso were 3-level scorers. Insanity. Okay, the original tweet has 51,000 views now. I guess it's not that big. But apparently I rocked the boat by saying it's questionable how well Cardoso and Reese fit together. And then I had a bunch of other people hit me up with like, well, Breanna Stewart and Jonquel Jones are power forwards and centers, and they play together. Yeah, Jonquel Jones is a 40% three-point shooter, almost. And Breanna Stewart faces the basket and scores from outside the paint. It is not the same thing because they play the same position. Like we have to, like, there are legitimately people in the WNBA space, fans, who know nothing about basketball. And they pretend they do. And some of the takes that I get back are just staggering. And then they try to posit what you're saying as some sort of bias or agenda, which is also just absurd. I'm so fucking tired of it. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not. You're not going to crybaby bully me. Not you, Mercedes, obviously, but any of those people. Like, no. I doing this too long. I know what I'm about. Like, I'm the big one. I'm the big fish. Y'all, go find Nemo somewhere else. Brent says Robin Keita just put out a video suggesting the Mystics trading 4 to +6 to Dallas for 1. Thoughts? There's no way I would make that trade if I'm Dallas. That's my thoughts. I mean, I'm not saying like if Paige was like, I'm not coming to Dallas, but 4 and 6 is not enough for 1. Not even close. That's a fleecing. What's going on with AB? Who is hating on AB? Look, I don't think Aaliyah Boston's a perfect player. I think Aaliyah Boston is a very intelligent player. I think that's one of her number one qualities is she's a smart player. She understands what's going on the floor. She knows how to read the game. I think Aaliyah has a couple of drawbacks. She could still stand to become a better shooter. She's not a particularly great finisher at times, especially, like trying to create her own shot. And I think it was fair, like, she didn't come into last season in the best shape. And I think that's just true. And it took her a while to get going. Once she got going, she played much better. She seems like a lovely person. She is, like I said, a very intelligent player. She's an unselfish player. She's a good passer. She knows how to read the situation well. She uh, is plays hard on defense, all those things. But I don't think she is in the same conversation as the top bigs in the league. I think she's a notch below them. Yeah, I mean, Nancy Angel's rebounding has always been impressive. People forget Angel averaged 24 to 13 in college. Look, Angel's I'm telling you, I think more highly of Angel than many of the detractors do. Don't get me wrong. I'm just also like I can constructively criticize her, and it's not because of some sort of weird agenda. This there's this strange. I guess it's not strange. Like I understand where it comes from. The idea of Angel and Clark always have to be linked together no matter what. But when I talk about Angel Reese, I'm not thinking about Caitlin Clark. Unless it's like they're playing each other or there's a direct comparison like the Rookie of the Year, which became a farce last year. And so, yeah, I talked about them comparatively last year at that point because they were linked together via that, and then it became increasingly absurd. But in general, when I talk about Angel Reese, it has zero to do with Caitlin Clark. I'm not thinking about Caitlin Clark or the Fever when I'm talking about the Chicago Sky. Why? Why would I do that? Who cares? I don't care. Lots of comments, y'all. It's hard for me to sort through all of them. Again, uh, super chats, member chats, I will get to first. I don't know what Darius White/Black is saluting me for, but I appreciate it. Tool of Play says, my theory is Miles doesn't declare, hence Sky and Sparks trades. Look, there's a chance that Miles and Fudd don't declare, and that makes the draft class weaker, right? For sure. EJ says Caitlin Clark's stats are like that because of her usage rate. Put somebody else in her usage rate and see them put up those stats. Who can do it? Give me a name. Oh, wait. Why do I think there is no set criteria for individual awards, MVP, Rookie of the Year, etc.? Because I don't know how you set a criteria for it. Like how? And those are open to interpretation. They're subjective. I agree with this. Some WNBA fans are way too sensitive. Many of them. Amy Rockhold says that Coach K interview you talked about was quoted by the Fever in their recent post. There you go. Catch that article on Women's Fast Break on SI as well. Which is written by Grant Young. Everything I said was facts. 99 problems. Maria says Kennedy Carter. I don't think Kennedy Carter will be in the league this year. If I had to guess. And that's what I'm standing on. I'm standing on business, Monique. No more crybaby bullies. Y'all are not bullying me. Or trying to make me feel insecure about who I am or throwing these dumbass narratives in my way that are quite frankly insulting. I'm sorry. You can't intimidate me. And you can't, I know who I am. So I'm not insecure about it. It's freaking disgusting, to be honest with you. If any, some of the stuff that gets said, if it were a dude saying it to me face to face, we'd have problems. When it's a basketball discussion. I agree with this. Aaliyah Boston is a terrific passer, Saheed, and a very smart player. That's what I said. That's part of what I meant by generally. Let me put this out there. Like, most of the great passers are very smart players, right? Those two things have a strong correlation. Where is the AB slander? I haven't really seen it. There's AB slander from where? Because she's not playing much in Unrivaled or whatever? I don't think that's her game either. But I think what Top Gun says is right. I mean, the word generational talent gets thrown around a little bit too much. I don't think AB is a generational talent. I don't. I think she's a very good basketball player. I don't know if I'd call Angel a generational talent either. As a rebounder, yes. I would say, I would agree that Angel Reese rebounds better than Aaliyah Boston does anything. I think that's fair to say. But I saw somebody call Olivia Miles a generational player yesterday. Just like silly. You can be a very good player without being generational. Chris Leclerc, Caitlin Clark is a hooper. Agreed. I mean, and that's so much of like the absurdity of all of this is that the basis of my interest in Clark was basketball. And I know that's a lot of people. I think you mean most objective, Mike Batista. This has been one of the best least objective. I think you mean most subjective. Tune into every video and live. Keep it up. By the rest of your context, I'm taking that as a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I call them, crybaby bullies. The people online, the legacy WNBA media, who either are crying about something or trying to bully you in their crying. Trying to bully you to think that you need a racial intervention because Angel Reese statistically is not great within 5 feet of the rim, or they're crying and aggrieved that you say something about Caitlin Clark without mentioning the Houston Comets from 1997. I don't know. It's just ridiculous and absurd. Again, like I had literally had somebody tell me that Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso are 3-level scorers. but I'm so tired of it, and I'm not putting up with it. I'm the WNBA media. Me. Here, right here. You're looking at the WNBA media. Coming through and crushing the buildings. They can cry baby while I bully them. Please like, subscribe, and all that stuff. I'm telling you, I'm a nice guy. That's also the truth of the matter. Sometimes it's problematic. Like I've got a situation going on from a business standpoint right now where I need to figure out how to navigate it, and I'm too nice and respectful. But again, like, what does it mean? Put some respect on Angel and Camilla's name. How did I disrespect them? Please enlighten me. Where's the disrespect? I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Scott, what's that from? I mean, I know the reference. I mean, luckily, ex Cookie Thief X, that I'm, doing fine as my own boss in my own business. But yes, I believe in the not too distant future, I will have some job offers from some of the platforms in the space. I I don't think, what I'm doing can really be ignored. Um, but whatever. I give the Sparks trade for Plum an A. Tulip plays. I think it was an A. They got one of the most famous players in the league to help lead their team that should thrive with a new role for a player that we have never seen play before in the league and is very, very, very unlikely, no matter who it is, going to be better than Kelsey Plum. Very, 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 very unlikely. And very, very, very even more unlikely going to be as big a star as Kelsey Plum is to help you sell tickets. Basil says AB is not generational. She's a very good player. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. She's a very good player. That's not a diss to say somebody's not generational. The whole point of generational means they come along once in a generation. Sahid says he got called. I won't even say the word. Because he blocked it out there before because I'm a black man and CC is by far my favorite woman basketball player. Like I can't be a fan of her game. Remember, that's almost exclusively an online thing, but it's also, I mean, this has come up a lot before where I have to talk about it. Like you don't get as popular as Caitlin Clark is without fans of all makeups and backgrounds and all that. So don't let the crybaby bullies do that to you either. All right, y'all. Oh, network. Yes. Okay. The film. Gotcha. I thought you were talking about the guy with the Kali avatar on X. But I think that'll about do it for me, guys. I got to get to take my son to basketball tryouts. Got some other stuff to do. You can catch me on Denise's Raw review. Remember, for future reference, super chats and member chats are appreciated. They get read first, and they help support what I'm doing here. If you're a fan of what I'm doing, because there's a lot of you in here, I would appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, all of those things. And until the next time, yeet. Oh, let's run this number up real quick, please. We need more of those. You got 90 seconds to hit me with more stuff. More likes. Thank you. I agree. Talking junk, part of the game. No big deal. Andre says Angel Reese. Let's get it. Go Angel Reese. I'm not rooting against Angel Reese. Just to put that out there. I have no incentive to root against Angel Reese. There's no part of me that's rooting against Angel Reese. I'm just going to call it like I see it. And if you got a problem with it, too bad. That's all. Eat.